For 9 years, a blind boy stood at the same window every morning, reaching for a son he would never see. His billionaire father watched him do this 3,285 times, and every single time, Daniel Reed's heart shattered a little more because 23 doctors told him there was no cure, no hope, no chance his son would ever see the world. Billy was all Daniel had left after his wife died, so he spent $14 million trying to buy a miracle that every specialist in the world said didn't exist. He slowed down his search, started accepting that his son might live in darkness forever, started believing the doctors who said there was nothing left to try. Then, a maid with $53 in her bank account found something in a locked compartment hidden in a desk drawer. Old medical files. Written in his dead wife's handwriting, and what those pages revealed didn't just prove the doctors wrong, it proved they had been lying the entire time. Billy was never supposed to be blind. He was made blind, on purpose, for profit. And the person who discovered this wasn't a Harvard-trained surgeon. It was a broken woman who lost her own sister to blindness and refused to let it happen again. Pause for 2 seconds and help me do something fun. Comment your city and country. I want to see how global this community really is, and I'm looking for the 2 viewers watching the farthest apart today so I can pin the winner. Now back to the story, because what this maid found in those files is about to change everything. Daniel Reed was a billionaire, tech empire, Bellwood Estate with 40 rooms, more money than most people see in 10 lifetimes. But his son Billy was born blind. 9 years old, never saw a single thing. Daniel tried everything. Hopkins Ridge Medical Center, Montreal Alpine Clinic, specialists in Switzerland who charge $15,000 an hour. They ran scans, genetic tests, experimental protocols that cost more than houses. All of them said the same thing. Irreversible. Born this way. Accept it. But Daniel couldn't accept it because Billy was all he had left. His wife, Beth, died in a car accident when the boy was 3. 3 days before she died, she told Daniel something that haunted him for 6 years. I found proof. The doctors are lying. Billy isn't blind. Then she was gone. And Daniel could not bear to read the last thing she wrote, because if she was right, it meant he had failed Billy for 6 years. Jennifer Palmer was a maid, 28 years old, no degree, no credentials, just a woman trying to scrape together $700 a week to keep her father alive. Dialysis at Federal Plaza home block 3 times a week, every week. She had spent hundreds of hours in clinics with her father, watching nurses check vitals, learned what emergency signs looked like. She showed up at Bellwood Estate with $53 in her bank account and a rule from the head housekeeper. Do not enter the East Wing. Do not speak to the boy. The last maid who got attached was fired, but on her 3rd day, Jennifer saw Billy standing at a window, reaching for light, squinting like he was trying to see through fog, and her blood went cold. Because 6 years ago, her baby sister Lily did the exact same thing before she died. Blind from a retinal detachment their family couldn't afford to fix. The doctor said it was just reflexes. It didn't mean anything. Then, Lily died. And Jennifer spent every night since wondering if they were wrong. So when she saw Billy's eyes move, just a fraction, just enough, she broke every rule. She walked into that room, and she decided she was going to find the truth, even if it destroyed her. Bellwood Estate had 40 rooms. 37 of them sat empty. Daniel Reed built the house 12 years ago when Beth was pregnant with Billy. She wanted space for more children, for birthday parties, for grandkids running through hallways and Christmas mornings with noise and chaos and life everywhere. She picked out furniture for rooms they would never use, painted nurseries for babies they would never have, hung curtains in windows that would stay closed for years. Then Beth died, and Daniel locked the doors. The staff moved through Bellwood like ghosts. No talking in the hallways, no music, no laughter. Mr. Reed liked things quiet. That's what Mrs. Rosen told every new hire. Quiet meant safe. Quiet meant no one asked questions. Quiet meant Daniel could pretend the silence was normal and not the sound of a man drowning in his own house. Every mirror in the East Wing was covered with white sheets. Daniel couldn't look at his reflection anymore, couldn't see Beth's eyes staring back at him from his own face. Couldn't see the man who spent $14 million on lies while his wife's journal collected dust in a locked drawer. So he covered them, all of them, and the staff learned not to ask why. They whispered about the boy. The blind boy, who lived in the East Wing and rarely left his room. 9 years old, and Daniel kept the curtains closed, kept him away from stairs, away from anything that might hurt him. But Billy still found the window, every morning, same spot, hands on the glass, reaching for light. The maids who cleaned that wing said he just sat in his room all day otherwise, hands tracing the same wooden puzzle box over and over, waiting for something that would never come. One maid tried to talk to him, tried to teach him Braille, tried to bring him books. Mrs. Rosen fired her the next day. "We don't get attached here. We don't interfere. We follow Mr. Reed's rules." The house was built for laughter, 40 rooms designed for a family that would grow and spread and fill every corner with light. But grief remodeled it into something else. A tomb. A prison. A place where a billionaire hid from the world and a little boy sat in darkness because his father was too broken to see the truth. Money built Bellwood Estate. But money couldn't buy what Daniel needed most. Peace, hope, the courage to open a drawer and read what his dead wife tried to tell him before it was too late. Subscribe now and stay to the end, because I am going to show you one detail hidden in Billy's original medical exam that quietly explains how the doctors kept him blind for 9 years, and you will not unsee it once I point it out. This is not medical error, this is fraud, and I'm going to show you the exact moment they crossed the line. Jennifer Palmer had $53 in her bank account when she walked through the gates of Bellwood Estate. Her shoes were 2 years old, soles worn so thin she could feel every stone in the driveway. Her hands were raw from scrubbing floors at the diner where she worked mornings and the office building where she worked nights. 28 years old, and she looked 40. That's what happens when you sleep 4 hours a night and spend every waking moment trying to keep your father alive. Federal Plaza Home Block charged $700 a week for dialysis, 3 sessions, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, every single week. Her father's kidneys stopped working 8 months ago, and the invoices started piling up so fast Jennifer couldn't breathe. She picked up a second job, then a third, worked 16-hour days and came home to a mailbox full of red envelopes that all said the same thing: past due, final notice, payment required or services will be terminated. She knew what that meant. No dialysis meant her father had 2 weeks, maybe 3 if he was lucky. So when she saw the ad for a housekeeping position at Bellwood Estate, she didn't care about the pay or the hours or the fact that rich people made her skin crawl. She just needed $700 a week. She needed her father to live. Mrs. Rosen interviewed her in the kitchen. Cold woman. Gray hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. She looked at Jennifer's worn shoes and chapped hands and said, "You're here because you're desperate. That's fine. Desperate people follow rules. So let me be very clear about ours. Do not speak to Mr. Reed unless he speaks to you first. Do not enter the East Wing. Do not go near the boy. Do not ask questions about the family. The last maid who broke these rules was fired. Do you understand?" Jennifer understood. She understood that rich people built walls around their pain and hired poor people to keep everyone else out. She understood that this job wasn't about cleaning floors. It was about staying invisible, about pretending she didn't see the covered mirrors or hear the whispers about the blind boy locked upstairs, about taking their money and keeping her mouth shut. But she needed $700 a week. So she nodded. She said yes, and she promised herself she would follow every single rule, no matter what she saw inside this house. Jennifer made it 3 days before she broke the rules. She didn't need to. She was cleaning the second-floor hallway, mopping in circles the way Mrs. Rosen taught her, when she heard something. A small sound, like wood scraping against wood. It came from behind a door at the end of the hall, the East Wing, the place she was told never to go. She should have walked away, should have finished mopping and gone downstairs and forgotten she heard anything, but the sound kept going. Scrape, pause, scrape, pause, over and over like someone was trying to solve a puzzle they would never finish, and something about it made Jennifer's chest hurt. She opened the door. The room was dark, curtains drawn, no lights, Just a little boy sitting on the floor with his hands on a wooden box, tracing the edges with his fingers like he was memorizing every corner. His eyes were open but clouded, milky white, staring at nothing. "Hi," Jennifer said softly. The boy didn't answer, didn't even look up, just kept tracing that box. Scrape, pause, scrape. "You okay?" Still nothing. Jennifer took a step closer. That's when she heard the voice behind her. "What do you think you're doing?" Mrs. Rosen stood in the doorway, face like stone, arms crossed, the kind of angry that didn't need to yell. "I heard a noise," Jennifer said. "I just wanted to make sure he was okay." "Get out." Jennifer backed toward the door, but Mrs. Rosen didn't move. Just stood there blocking the exit, staring at Jennifer like she was deciding whether to fire her right now or wait until tomorrow. "The last maid who got attached to that boy lost her job," Mrs. Rosen said. Her voice was quiet, cold. She thought she could help him, thought she knew better than the doctors, better than Mr. Reed, better than everyone who actually matters in this house. She lasted 2 weeks. "Do you want to know what happened to her father while she was looking for a new job?" Jennifer's stomach dropped. "He missed dialysis," Mrs. Rosen said. 3 sessions. By the time she found work again, it was too late. The message was clear. Stay away from the boy, or your father dies. And Mrs. Rosen would make sure of it. Jennifer could see it in her eyes. This woman had a stake in keeping things exactly as they were. She wasn't just following orders, she was protecting something. Jennifer nodded. She walked out of that room and went back to mopping floors. But her hands were shaking, because she understood now. This wasn't just a job, it was a test, and the price of failure was her father's life. Jennifer lasted 2 more days before she went back. She told herself it was just to check on him, make sure he was okay. But the truth was, she couldn't stop thinking about that little boy sitting alone in the dark, tracing the same wooden box over and over, like he was waiting for something that would never come. It reminded her too much of Lily, her baby sister, 6 years old, blind, sitting in a hospital bed with nothing to do but wait to die. So on her lunch break, Jennifer snuck into the east wing with a smooth stone from the garden. She sat down next to Billy and put it in his hand. "This is a river stone," she said. "Feel how smooth it is? The water rubs against it for years and years until all the rough edges disappear." Billy didn't say anything, but his fingers moved over the stone, slowly, carefully, like he was listening with his hands. The next day, Jennifer brought him tree bark, rough, ridged. She told him it was brown and gray and smelled like rain. Billy held it close to his face and breathed in, and for the first time since Jennifer met him, she saw something that looked like a smile. She started coming every day, during her lunch break, when Mrs. Rosen thought she was eating in the kitchen. She brought Billy crinkled paper and told him it was yellow like the sun. She brought him a pine cone and told him it was shaped like a tiny tree. And every single time, Billy reached toward her voice the moment she walked through the door, like he knew she was there before she even spoke. That's when Jennifer noticed something. One day she walked over to the window and pulled the curtains open just a little. Light poured into the room, and Billy turned his head, not toward her, toward the window. His clouded eyes squinted. Just for a second. Just enough. Jennifer's heart stopped. That was not what the doctors had described, not just reflexes. He was reacting to light like there was still something there, like his eyes were trying to see through something blocking them. She thought about Lily, how her sister used to do the same thing before she died. Squint. Turn toward light, reach for shadows like she was trying to see through fog. The doctors said it didn't mean anything, just reflexes, just nerves firing in a brain that didn't know the eyes were broken. But what if they were wrong? What if something treatable was being ignored? If you want to see stories where ordinary people uncover truth that experts miss, subscribe right now. Because at the end of this video, I'm revealing the one detail in Billy's original medical exam that proves this was deliberate fraud. The moment everything flips is coming, and you need to see it. Jennifer heard them arguing on a Thursday night. She was cleaning the hallway outside Daniel's office when the voices got loud enough to echo through the walls. "You need to let her go." That was Mrs. Rosen, cold, firm. "Beth is gone. The boy will never see. You're torturing yourself, holding on to hope that doesn't exist. I can't let it go. Daniel's voice cracked. I've spent $14 million. Every specialist said the same thing. But what if they were wrong? What if Beth was right? Beth was grief-stricken. She was seeing things that weren't there. Then why can't I read her journal? Why do I keep it locked away if I'm so sure she was wrong? There was a long silence. Because you know the truth would destroy you, Mrs. Rosen said quietly, and I'm not going to let that happen. Not after everything I've done to protect this family. The door opened. Mrs. Rosen walked out clutching a key in her hand, the kind of old brass key that opened rooms no one was supposed to enter. She saw Jennifer standing there with a mop and her face went hard. Get back to work. Jennifer nodded and walked away, but she memorized that key, and she memorized which door Mrs. Rosen unlocked before disappearing inside. Daniel's study, the one room in Bellwood Estate that was always locked, always off limits, the room where Beth's things were kept. 2 days later, Jennifer walked past the study and saw the door cracked open, just an inch. Just enough. She shouldn't have gone inside. She knew that. But her hands pushed the door open anyway, and her feet carried her to the massive oak desk in the center of the room. Papers everywhere, medical statements, hospital records, letters from doctors all over the world saying the same thing. We cannot help your son. Jennifer opened the desk drawer. Empty. She felt underneath. Her fingers hit something, a false bottom. She pried it open and found a journal, leather-bound, worn. The cover said Beth Reed in gold letters. Jennifer opened it. The handwriting was shaky, desperate, page after page of a woman who knew something was wrong and couldn't get anyone to listen. Dr. Harrison said the condition is treatable, simple surgery. But Dr. Crane insists we wait. He wants to try the alpha treatment protocol first. Why? Billy is in pain. He cries at night. He reaches for light. This isn't what they told us. Jennifer's hands started shaking. She kept reading. Beth had copied notes from medical files, descriptions of tests, and then, at the bottom of one page, Beth had written something that made Jennifer's blood run cold. I went to the hospital records department. I found Billy's original intake exam. Dr. Crane wrote, "Recommend cataract extraction ASAP" in the notes. Then someone crossed it out. The next line says, "Parent declined surgery" with a signature. But that's not my signature. I never declined anything. They forged my name. Jennifer flipped to the last entry, 3 days before Beth died. I have proof. I copied the original exam. They falsified records to enroll Billy in a fake treatment program. $600,000 per year. I'm going to destroy them. I'm meeting with a lawyer tomorrow. But Beth never made it to that lawyer, and the medical files she copied were nowhere in the journal. Jennifer kept searching. Behind the false bottom was another compartment, locked. She used a letter opener to pry it open and found a manila envelope. Inside were photocopies of medical records, and right there, on the first page, was exactly what Beth described. Dr. Crane's handwriting. "Recommend cataract extraction ASAP," crossed out, and below it, "Parent declined surgery," with a signature that looked like Beth's but wasn't quite right. Jennifer took pictures of everything, the journal, the medical records, the forged signature, all of it. Jennifer sat in her car for 2 hours and stared at her phone, because now she had to decide what to do with the truth, and both choices felt like dying. If she showed Daniel the files, he would know she broke into his study, know she violated his privacy. Mrs. Rosen would fire her on the spot, and without this job, Jennifer's father had 2 weeks, maybe 3. No dialysis meant his blood would fill with toxins until his heart just stopped. She would watch him die the same way she watched Lily die. Lily, 6 years old. Jennifer was 16 when it happened. Their parents didn't have insurance, didn't have $12,000 for the surgery that could have fixed Lily's retinal detachment. So they waited, hoped it would get better on its own, prayed for a miracle that never came. And Jennifer held her baby sister's hand while she died, whispering, "I'm sorry," over and over, because sorry was all she had. She swore that day she would never let it happen again. Never watch another child suffer because the people who were supposed to help them didn't care enough to try. But this was different. Billy wasn't her sister. Daniel wasn't her father. And if she lost this job, her own father would die. Jennifer found herself in the chapel on the east side of Bellwood Estate. Small room, stained glass windows. She hadn't prayed in years, not since Lily, but she didn't know where else to go. God, I don't know if I'm seeing the truth or just seeing what I want to see. I don't know if I'm helping or destroying everything. But if you're giving me a second chance to save a child, if this is why you put me in this house, then I can't walk away. I can't let another little kid suffer because I was too scared to do the right thing. She thought about something her grandmother used to say. God doesn't call the credentialed, he calls the compassionate. And Jennifer might not have been a doctor, but she knew what it felt like to lose someone because no one cared enough to look twice. She made her decision. Tomorrow, when Billy had one of his episodes, she would show Daniel everything. And whatever happened after that, she would accept. If you're still watching, you're exactly the kind of person this channel was built for, so hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next episode, because this exact pattern of medical fraud and institutional corruption shows up in another case I'm covering soon. And the courage Jennifer shows here becomes even more important in that story. It happened the next afternoon. Jennifer was in Billy's room during her lunch break, showing him a feather she'd found in the garden, when Billy suddenly went rigid. His hands flew to his head, his mouth opened, but no sound came out at first. Then he screamed. Jennifer grabbed him. "Billy, what's wrong? Where does it hurt?" Billy couldn't answer, just clutched his head and gasped for air. His whole body was shaking. Jennifer ran to the door and shouted down the hallway, "Help! Someone help!" Daniel came running, Mrs. Rosen right behind him. They found Jennifer holding Billy on the floor of his room, the boy's face twisted in agony. "What did you do to him?" Mrs. Rosen screamed. "Nothing. He just collapsed. Something is wrong." Jennifer looked at Billy's face, his eyes, and her blood went cold. His pupils were different sizes, one huge, one tiny. That was bad. That was emergency bad. "Call 911, Jennifer said. Her voice was shaking but steady. "His pupils are uneven. That could mean pressure in his brain. This is serious." "You're a maid," Daniel said, but his voice had no strength. He was already pulling out his phone. Jennifer pulled out her phone too, showed him the pictures, Beth's journal, the medical records, the forged signature. "Your wife knew," Jennifer said. "She tried to tell you. Someone falsified records to keep Billy blind. Look at this." Daniel took the phone. His hands were shaking. He scrolled through the pictures, and then he stopped. He read Beth's words, and something inside him finally broke open. He finally heard Beth's voice in the pages, not grief, not confusion, truth. He saw the medical record, Dr. Crane's original recommendation. "Recommend cataract extraction ASAP," crossed out, replaced with "parent decline surgery" and a signature that wasn't Beth's. "They forged her signature," Jennifer said. "They enrolled Billy in a fake treatment program, $600,000 a year for therapy that doesn't exist. Your wife found out. She was going to sue them. Then she died." The room went silent. Even Billy stopped gasping. Just lay there, barely breathing. Daniel looked up at Jennifer. "How long have you known?" "2 days." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I'm a maid," Jennifer said. "And people like Mrs. Rosen make sure people like me stay silent." Mrs. Rosen's face went pale. "That's not true. I was protecting this family." "You were protecting the people who did this," Jennifer said. "That's why you fired anyone who got close to Billy. That's why you threatened me about my father." "You knew." Daniel stared at Mrs. Rosen. Then he dialed 911. And while he talked to the dispatcher, while he begged them to hurry, Jennifer held Billy's hand and prayed she wasn't too late. The ambulance arrived 7 minutes later. Paramedics rushed in with a stretcher and equipment and started working on Billy while Daniel stood there looking like his world was ending. Again. Jennifer stayed in the corner, out of the way, watching them stabilize the boy. That's when Mrs. Rosen tried one last time. "Mr. Reed, before you go, you need to understand what this woman did." Her voice was desperate now. "She broke into your study. She stole those files. She violated your privacy. You can't trust anything she says." Daniel turned to look at Mrs. Rosen. His face was ice. "You told me Beth was losing her mind. You told me to let it go. You convinced me to lock her journal away and never read it. Why?" Mrs. Rosen didn't answer. How much did they pay you? Daniel's voice was quiet, deadly. How much did Hopkins Ridge Medical Center pay you to keep me away from the truth? I was protecting you, Mrs. Rosen whispered. You were protecting them, and my son paid the price. Daniel looked at the security guards. Escort Mrs. Rosen off the property. She's fired. And someone call my lawyer. I want every record from that hospital, every email, every payment, everything. Mrs. Rosen opened her mouth to argue, but the security guards were already moving toward her. Jennifer watched them take her away. Then she looked at Daniel. I'm sorry I broke into your study, she said quietly. But I'm not sorry I found the truth. Daniel nodded. Neither am I. Come with me to the hospital. Billy is going to need someone who actually cares about him when he wakes up. Daniel called Dr. Pasternak from the hospital waiting room. The doctor arrived 3 hours later with Billy's medical files and a laptop full of scans. He looked at the records from Hopkins Ridge Medical Center, looked at the forged signature, looked at Daniel. Your son has dense congenital cataracts, Dr. Pasternak said. There was a treatable cause that was deliberately ignored. Should have been corrected when he was an infant. Daniel's hands were shaking. Every doctor told me it was permanent. Every doctor you paid told you that. Dr. Pasternak pulled up the original exam on his laptop. Look at this. This is from Billy's first examination at Hopkins Ridge Medical Center 9 years ago. Dr. Crane documented everything. Dense bilateral cataracts. Operable. High success rate. He recommended immediate extraction. Dr. Pasternak zoomed in on the screen. But then look what happened. Someone crossed out the recommendation, added this line about parental refusal, and forged your wife's signature. Then they enrolled Billy in the Alpha treatment protocol. $600,000 a year for 9 years, for a therapy that was never real. Daniel stared at the screen, at the proof that his son could have seen, should have seen, would have seen if someone had just told him the truth, if someone hadn't forged his wife's name to keep the money flowing. Your wife figured it out, Dr. Pasternak said quietly. She was going to sue, going to expose the whole operation. These records are what she died trying to protect. Daniel collapsed into a chair. He sat there for a long time, head in his hands, making sounds that weren't quite crying but weren't quite anything else either. Then he stood up. I want Dr. Crane arrested. I want the hospital investigated. And I want every dollar they stole. Daniel's lawyer had already forwarded the photos to federal investigators while Billy was in surgery. An hour later, a man in a suit walked into the waiting room. Mr. Reed, I'm Agent Morrison, FBI. We've been building a case against Hopkins Ridge Medical Center for 18 months. Medical fraud, identity theft, racketeering. Your wife's copied records confirm the forgery pattern we suspected, and they strengthen our case significantly. A raid warrant is being executed at the facility right now. Daniel looked at Jennifer. She was sitting in the corner, hands folded, looking like she didn't know if she should stay or go. He walked over and knelt down in front of her, a billionaire on his knees in front of a maid. I'm sorry, he said. His voice broke. You saw my son when I was blind. You risked everything when I risked nothing. Thank you. Jennifer didn't say anything, just nodded, tears running down her face. Billy's surgery took 4 hours. When they wheeled him out of the operating room, his eyes were covered in bandages. The doctor said they had to wait 24 hours before removing them. Daniel didn't sleep, just sat next to Billy's bed and held his hand. When the bandages came off, Billy blinked. Once, twice. His eyes focused, and he looked at his father's face for the first time in his life. Dad? Billy's voice was small, confused. I'm here. Billy reached up and touched Daniel's cheek, traced the lines around his eyes. You have Mom's eyes. Daniel wept. And Jennifer stood in the doorway watching a little boy see the world, and finally felt at peace. 3 months later, Billy was learning what colors looked like, what his mother looked like in photographs, what the sun looked like when it wasn't just a warmth on his face, but a light he could finally see. Daniel had filed civil and criminal charges against Hopkins Ridge Medical Center. Dr. Crane and 6 administrators were arrested and awaiting trial. Mrs. Rosen was under investigation for conspiracy and accepting bribes. Jennifer's father was on the transplant list, moved to priority status after Daniel made a substantial donation to the Transplant Foundation in Beth's name. 2 years after that, the settlement came through. $63 million. Daniel donated half to medical fraud prevention programs and legal advocacy groups. The other half went to families who couldn't afford the surgeries their children needed. Dr. Crane was convicted and sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Hopkins Ridge Medical Center lost its accreditation and closed permanently. And every morning, Billy still stood at the window. But now he wasn't reaching for something he would never have. He was watching the world he almost lost, the world one woman saved by refusing to stay silent. Remember, I promised to show you the one detail that proves this was deliberate fraud? Here it is. In Billy's original medical exam, Dr. Crane wrote, "Recommend cataract extraction ASAP" in his own handwriting. Then, someone crossed it out with a single line. You can still read it underneath. Then, they added, "Parent declined surgery" with a forged signature. That crossed-out line is everything. It proves they knew Billy could be cured. It proves they chose profit over a child's sight. And it's the smoking gun that helped send Dr. Crane to prison for 12 years. One crossed-out line, that's all it took to steal 9 years from a little boy's life. And that's why you can never stop asking questions, even when everyone tells you to stay silent. Click the video on your right to see 3 other cases where ordinary people exposed medical conspiracies that destroyed careers, the warning signs they noticed that doctors ignored, and the one document that changes everything. You'll see the patterns these heroes follow, the mistakes the institutions make, and the exact moment when the truth comes to light.